A couple weeks ago, I met a homeless man named Charles in San Francisco. I asked him what his biggest struggle was, and before he answered me, he looked at me for a few seconds and then just said one word: connection. Charles explained how there's a big gap between the way people view homeless people like himself and who they actually are. He also expressed how difficult it was to be seen by thousands of people every day, but heard by none. That feeling is caused by people who get so focused on their daily tasks and problems that they forget to stop for a second and think about others. And so often, I am one of those people. But what would happen if that were flipped and we were so busy thinking about others and their needs that we didn't even have time to selfishly think about ourselves? The past few days, actually weeks and months really, multiple tragedies have devastated hearts all across the world. From Christina Grimmie and the Orlando shooting, to Philando Castile, Alton Sterling and the Dallas shooting, to the terror attacks in Nice and Turkey, to the Baton Rouge shooting this morning. And it's extremely difficult to think about all of those people who are pretty similar to ourselves, who are now dead because of someone's senseless act. We can respond to such events in several ways. We could do nothing and try our best to ignore them. We could become fixated on all the details and try to make sense of it all. Or we can try our best to empathize with those involved and listen to the hurting voices before it starts to take a toll on our mental health in a negative way. I obviously believe the latter to be the best response, because one of the strongest defenses against tragedy is empathy. Actively putting yourself in the same frame of mind as those closest to catastrophe is hard, but extremely beneficial. Empathy is a catalyst of change. When we empathize and try to understand people more, we start to think less about ourselves and start to care more deeply about other people. And if everyone thought complexly about each other's backgrounds, problems, upbringings, and all the things that make us who we are, then we would stop having so much murder that is blind to the feelings of others. We exacerbate the problem when we don't acknowledge that it exists, and we can also make the problem worse when we let our emotions rule and think that a problem is beyond any reasonable solution. Please be wary of the narrative that says that this world is going to hell in a handbasket and that hope is too far gone. We tend to think that the world is becoming a much worse place to live in because we're more exposed to the real-life horrors from the media and other outlets. 70% of Americans believe that crime has gotten worse in recent years, but that's just not true. Violent crimes have dropped 50% since 1990. Crime isn't getting worse, it's actually getting dramatically better. But there is still significant room for improvement. Though the statistics seem to show the world is getting better on a macro scale, that doesn't make the lives recently lost hurt any less. And we should definitely be taking the time to be grieving and to just think about how much these circumstances suck. But in the darkness is where the light shines through the most. I wholly believe that. Through tragedy and desperation, we bond together and address the problems that our society faces. And I think that we can help solve these problems through empathizing with even the most difficult of people. Don't contribute to the gap in humanity. Try your best to make deep connections with those who desperately need it, like the victims and the victim's family, and even my friend Charles. Our heavy hearts are in desperate need to be made light, so whether you're a police officer, a Black Lives Matter protester, a Trump supporter, a Christian, a Muslim, a rich or homeless person, you're human. So please view other humans with the same empathy and compassion you desire to be seen with, and try your best to uplift other individuals to at least the same plane that you're on, if not higher. I don't mean this to sound like a speech, so I'm sorry if this comes off as very preachy, but I do think that this is important. Please listen to other people, try to gain a perspective from them, and empathize with them. Because even the most racist, bigoted, violent, closed-minded person has reasons for being who they are and believing what they believe. And how much better it is to feel empathy towards a person like that than feeling hateful towards the full of hate. And on another last note, because I think it's important, no matter how bad things get, there is hope. Always, always, there is hope. Let me know if you have any thoughts on empathy.